All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. It's Monday news day. Jamal Bowman, J6 comparisons. Yeah, I got hypnotized into forgetting to run the, not the top of the hour break. I ran it already, but I got hypnotized into forgetting to blast off today. It's Monday news day. Jamal Bowman, January 6 comparisons. Trump is in court for fraud. Gavin Newsom's corpo pick for CA Senate and more. Get in now. Do we have a good... The chatter asking for politics derailed you? Dude, I never stopped doing politics. It's just that you probably personally don't like or aren't immediately interested in the issue that I'm talking about. Every single part of my commentary is still going to be political in nature, which it always is. What is the October 4th conspiracies? I'm not even familiar with what the fuck's going on there, but anyway, whatever. I love that. I love a good conspiracy, so let's fucking YOLO it. We'll cover that too. Very confused MB, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. I should have used... This is such a funny meme, dude. What the fuck? Yo, Discord is popping today and yesterday. The U.S. also genocided millions of Koreans and Chinese in the efforts to stop socialism after Mao brought millions out of slavery, Japanese and U.S. imperial suppression and poverty. Yeah, but think about the vibes, though. Oh, are they saying that because, like, some of these dipshits know that, like, there's going to be an emergency broadcast message, and one of the QAnon guys was, like, smart enough to get ahead of that? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. There's going to be an emergency broadcast on every phone as a test, and all it takes is for, like, a couple dickheads to know ahead of time that that's going to happen and immediately tailor something around it, which is pretty funny because, like, when I first saw it, I literally thought about, like, I literally thought about when I first saw it, like, there was a Dexerta tweet that I saw. I was going to quote tweet it and be like, yeah, I hope it's, telling people to subscribe to the Hasanabi broadcast at the top of the hour or some dumb shit. And then some QAnon guys went and literally did that, basically. Like, me joking about that tweet was basically the reality for the QAnon circles. Someone immediately used that to their advantage because, like, every single person is going to receive that message. So that's a great opportunity to radicalize people and, like, get them on board with your dumb bullshit, your dumb grift. Anyway, let's blast off. Fucking liberals freaked the fuck out over this a few years back because it was Trump in office. What's with your boy Gavin stealing our Marylanders? Bro, you can keep her in Maryland, okay? Brazzers, you so straight. Oh, true. This literally is a straight porn site. I didn't even think about that. Before politics, how was the after party? Oh, that's the last part of the saga. It's so funny because as soon as the hypnosis part was, as soon as the stream was over, I fucked out of there. I just, like, immediately peaced out. Now, a lot of you were tweeting at me saying, Hassan, why are you fucking tweeting about Gavin Newsom's, like, Senate pick at the after party? It's because I wasn't at the after party. Okay? I was not at the after party. I was on my way home and reading Twitter angrily, reading the fucking Politico article about the head of Emily's list, that Gavin Newsom, okay? And the reason why I left was because I left Kaya home, guys. Remember, I left Kaya at home by herself for 3 to 4 hours when I live streamed, came back home, took her outside, played with her a little bit, and then I had to leave again for another 4 hours. I can't fucking leave her alone for longer than that. That's crazy. And guess what? I didn't crate her. I just left her in my bedroom, and she didn't pee, nor did she poop in the house, which is fucking awesome. Okay? Yeah. This is why my Twitter is busted, dude. Want to switch governor camp? Like, that's not that bad. Yeah, sucks when socialists don't walk the talk, lol. You a creep. Yeah, Twitter is just broken as a website. She pooed, you just haven't found it in your $3 billion McMansion? True, maybe. Yeah, I saw this the post left watch coming after me.
Like, go ahead.
Tibet was literally a fucking feudal slave mandate, like autonomous zone.
China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. You know, we talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in fucking normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in and
so China unilaterally took over Tibet.
Like
these are their culture. They basically are trying to, you know, homogenize the culture.
If your culture,
they're trying to spoil the religion and the identity.
The part of feudal warlords and slavery, abolishing that, yes, I do think that is good.
No, China did them a favor.
I think that yes, I will be on the record
just
to
like
state
America did it.
That while the Chinese government,
I'm not going to say it.
Well, there is no equivalent in American intervention that you can point to in a similar capacity, unless you're talking about.
Okay, so
and I think this is a good way to describe Taiwan as well. The American federal government going into the fucking South and killing, unfortunately not all of them, but a decent amount of slavers and defenders of slavery. This is violent retribution from a powerful federal government that squashed.
That account tries to put you in the same light as Jimmy Dore or Glenn Greenwald, aka people that actually support right-wingers. Yeah, it's always so funny whenever that account is always like, there's a bunch of these like post-left watch or like, like there are plenty of fucking grifters who have left the left, but still abide by the aesthetics of the left while simultaneously always supporting right-wingers. I am very obviously not one of those people, but that account does not care about specifically those people. That account only cares about whoever the fuck deviates from standard Democratic Party politics and specifically American foreign policy. Okay? It is such an idiotic fucking take to get so mad at a perspective like this. Some of you be calling the Union American Confederates genocide if you were alive back then. 100%. It's also funny to see. I think it's also funny to see that so many of the people in the replies of this or in the quote tweets of this are like, yeah, maybe I was a little too harsh on Hassan. Oh, stop making me like Hassan. It's like, suck my dick, dumbass. You just got duped by other people clip chimping me and saying I'm not fucking leftist enough. I've been in this game for a lot longer than you have, and I've been saying the same shit for a lot longer than you have, okay? Stop getting fucking clip chimp dumbasses online. Looks like a lot of leftists agree with you, but said fuck you in the same sentence as well. Yeah, because unfortunately, we're all fucking losers on the left, okay? We can't ever get together and align on our universal values that we have.
Okay.
Tibet is the South in the Civil War?
Yes. Tibet in the time frame where Chinese intervention happened would be the South. Yes,
so
they were doing slavery.
What was the moral aspect of the war of China?
The interests are obviously like national security or whatever the fuck they claim, but ultimately the reality was that beyond the material benefits, that yes, they were a feudal, oppressive, slavery-backed state, autonomous region.
Well, as if the American Civil War was about morals. Yeah, I mean, yeah. The only aspect that you can touch on as far as like Tibetan culture being erased is like the classic Dalai Lama dispute, which is bullshit. Like what the Chinese people are doing is bullshit. What the Chinese government has done is not good, which is a classic fucking socialist hang up on religious figures and idolatry that you just cannot fucking let people believe in their own shit. Other than that, as far as I understand, they improved literacy rates for Tibetans and offered material benefits. Obviously, the Dalai Lama himself, the current Dalai Lama himself, is like a CIA guy, but whatever. Abolishing slavery after the Civil War is strictly a punishment for the South. It was not about morals at the time. The PRC came to Tibet from the call of a Tibetan communist who had been asking the USSR for help for years. At least China increased the quality of life post-intervention. The North really didn't do shit for the people. Chinese intervention in Tibet, with obviously the exception of like trying to reinstitute religious norms and with seeing it as a mechanism of control and trying to reinstitute religious norms with their own guy and having like a consistent dispute. With that exception, what the federal government in America refused to do in the South was lessons to learn. I just did a really bad job of describing it. Fuck. I mean, the federal government should have went way harder in the South. Someone said you were doing this. Conquistadors did to Mexico. That's a really interesting fucking take because, completely destroying and enslaving indigenous people. Okay, he's literally doing this meme. This is my take with a lot of like online dipshits, right? They don't comprehend like there's a difference between good things and bad things. Violence is a constant in the political sphere. Not a valid comparison because the conquistadors literally instituted a slave mandate, did not abolish slavery. They instituted a slavery mandate on the indigenous population. This comparison is literally like, it's not even frustrating at this point. You want to know why it's not frustrating? Because you're just a fucking stupid person for making this comparison. It's so goddamn idiotic because it's so goddamn ahistorical, okay? That's the major problem here. Using ancient ritualistic practices that we would personally consider barbarian with our own modern perspectives as a reason for enslaving an entire fucking population that called themselves, people who do conquest, okay? Which did significantly more barbaric shit to that same indigenous population, is psychotic, especially when you're talking about like, violent retribution to end slavery in a specific region. It doesn't make sense. It's ahistorical. I wish that people wouldn't be so susceptible to right-wing framing or immediate reactionary lapses of judgment, and instead we're able to think about this a little bit more thoroughly. Okay, I get it. You fucking hate socialists or tankies or whatever the fuck, but just like, please, just be a little bit more open-minded. That's all I ask. Okay, Michael Parenti on Tibet. These Tibetans fled. I don't know if I want to watch this because I feel like there's gonna be some skinned babies on here. Like, I feel like anytime leftists talk about Tibet, they immediately hit the fucking look at the flesh removed from this baby line, which is real. There was a real thing that happened, but like, I don't want to fucking show it. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's like a shit ton of skulls in here. I guess that's not technically TOS because it's just skulls.
The very purpose of our life is happiness.
Like looking at why skull. Mama telling that child to suck his tongue. I'm not even kidding. Did unimaginable damage to the CIA's interest in like using him as a fucking person of notoriety. I'm not even kidding. Once he became memeified by like even the most normie libs that were like, whoa, what the fuck? Suck my tongue. That's odd. It just like, it was such a massive branding fuck up, dude. Straight up. Like once that happened, everyone was like, kind of odd, dude. It's just, what the fuck? Also, this is not Michael Parenti. I don't know why you guys sent this to me. I don't know why it says the Michael Parenti library. This is very obviously not him. There is no yellow.
Lived in huts and ate.
By the way, this is one of those like funny moments where like Penn and Teller are such like annoying r/atheism dipshits and libertarians in general, but like old school libertarians in general, that they're like anti-Dalai Lama. It's like, it's so funny to just be, it's so funny to be like so hyper focused on like religion being nonsensical that you just end up arriving at like a correct position.
Basic.
MB Kagro says Dalai Lama oranın FETÖ'sü oluyor değil mi? Turkish people are so funny. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, FETÖ'cü. Yeah, I never thought that this would be a comparison that I would ever hear in my entire life, but not wrong. Yes. Dalai Lama is the Fethullah Gulen of Tibet. Yeah. And then liberals could say, oh, it's so much better. They'd also do like heavy investments, but like Western backed heavy investments. You know what I mean? So they could be like, no, life is so much better now. And also, you're fucking annoying if you think that like having a Lama class and a little bit of feudalism there is in their culture. Like, it's really fucked up that you think that they are not allowed to have a little bit as a treat. Did you see what Tana said about you on her podcast? No, I did not. What'd she say? New age feudalism. Yeah. Being ruled by llamas seems sick. Oh, as far as historical revisionism goes, by the way, because our part in endless amounts of historical revisionism doesn't specifically end there. Since Canada did a oopsie and had a fucking literal Nazi, a Waffen SS Nazi, a Nazi, okay, which, by the way, my hatred for Nazis have never been higher. I've always been like obviously an anti-Nazi guy, but since watching Band of Brothers, oh my God, dude, I've been my patriotism and anti-Nazi opinions have flourished, okay? My God, dude. My God. Damn, sounds like that was against his interest. Damn, sounds like that was against his interest in Tibetan, right? It does seem like, or does it seem like siding with the CIA makes sense? For me, it does feel like the latter. Why would he not side with the CIA, who was the other option to back his liberation effort? Yeah, his liberation effort to do what, though, is the question, which is why I made the comparison to the Confederacy, Walter, Chatter. It's like the Confederacy were trying to align with France and England, who had unified interests in maintaining low cotton prices, right? And also destabilizing this new formation. Like, you take it one step further. Like, it's not necessarily just aligning with the CIA that's an issue. It's that, like, he was, from a long line of slavers who were brutally oppressive, where 98% of the fucking country was serfs. Do you get it? Anyway, there is a Politico article that is re-envisioning the Waffen SS. I'm literally looking at it, friggin' banana pants. Look at the screen. Okay, very cool. We got some Nazis in the chat. Nice, getting banned quickly. Okay, so watch Soviet storms of World War II doc from the USSR perspective. Let's go. As I was talking about, which episode are you on? I'm almost done. I think I'm on episode 9 or 8 or something. But anyway, as my fervor and anti-Nazi perspective becomes more solidified than ever before, Politico has some different opinions. Okay. Politico wrote an article saying, fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Canada's Hunka scandal is a demonstration of how, when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit the appeal of simplicity, which is a fucking psychotic thing to say. What the fuck is going on? There's an article by Keir Giles, voiced by artificial intelligence.
Fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Canada's Hunka scandal is a demonstration of how, when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit the appeal of simplicity. Keir Giles is an author and commentator. His most recent book, Russia or the Truth, has even got its boots on. And the ongoing turmoil over Canada's parliament recognizing former SS trooper Yaroslav Hunka highlights one of the most important reasons why something that's untrue but simple is far more persuasive than a complicated.
Dude, it's done. I don't even want to read the rest of it. It's over. You are saying that a guy who volunteered to be a part of the foreigner brigade for the Waffen SS actually had a complicated relationship. You know what this is? This is you guys put women in video games okay? And you went too far by putting women in video games. So now I'm a fucking Nazi, okay? Except, guess what? He literally was a Nazi, okay? Like, I mean, literally the closest you can get to being a Nazi without being a part of the party, okay? He volunteered. I don't know how to fucking, what? I don't know how to fucking go about this. I don't know how to, like, hello? This motherfucker looked at the Holocaust and said it was the best years of my life, dude. God damn. Like, you know, I'm no Stalinist or anything, but fucking holy shit, dude. Social fascism is so real. What the hell? Chill out, man. It's like, what are we doing here? What the fuck's going on? You're just actually, unironically, not even cutting a liberal at this point and a fascist is bleeding. You're just tickling a liberal and a fascist is laughing. Fuck. How? Why is this written in a publication? This is, what is going on? This is like Stormfront shit. In the case of Hunka, the mass outrage stems from his enlistment of one of the foreign legions of the Waffen SS. Oh my God. Fighting Soviet forces on Germany's Eastern Front. And it's a demonstration of how, when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit the appeal of simplicity. The history is complicated because fighting against the USSR at the time didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. During World War II, if you fought against the USSR, you aligned with the Nazis and you were literally a Nazi, okay? And not only that, but even if you were to say like, oh, the entire nationalist movement in Ukraine wasn't aligned with Nazis, even though, you know, that would still be somewhat historically revisionist unless you're like literally talking about some edge case that I don't even fucking know about, okay? Right? This guy doesn't even fit that bill, okay? Before the Finnish chirp and chime in, okay? I know, you guys denazified your fucking Air Force like what, 5 years ago? Thank you for that. Except, this is even worse than that, okay? This is worse than Finnish people being like, oh, well, you know, we had a complicated history with that, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, we're talking straight up. Like joining the Waffen SS, okay? I yelled too much. I got up and went to a different area in the room to fall asleep. As far as edge cases go, I guess the Japanese Imperials did also fight the USSR, but as you said, not this guy. Wait. Yeah. Exactly. They were bad. Hello? What do you think? I'm a fucking fan of Imperial Japan? What? Yeah, they were, bro, the Japanese were the Nazis on the other side of the fucking planet. If anything, they got away with so much shit, okay? Shouts out to the Americans who allowed them to do that. They were fucking insanely evil, you know what I mean? Like, insanely evil. Bro, the fucking Manchurian experiments, dude? What the fuck? God damn, those motherfuckers were psychotic monsters, okay? And here comes at the beginning of the World War II, USSR started siding with the Nazis. Really interesting. Appeasement also occurred with the West as well. I hope you know that. And it doesn't fucking matter. This is literally the same energy as, I guess you didn't know that the Democrats were the ones who are on the side of the Confederates. It's like, yeah, did nothing else happen, dude? In between then? That's really interesting. What a fucking awesome, fun little moment of history. Let's not examine anything else that happened after that, okay? Let's not examine anything else that happened. Everyone always goes, this is the new liberal fucking counter, which is so stupid. Just like, you don't have to be ahistorical about it, okay? You don't have to come across like a dumbass hog just so you can do the fuck the USSR thing. You could just say you don't like the USSR's existence, you don't like what Stalin did or whatever the fuck, and just keep it at that. You don't have to also literally turn around and engage in ahistorical nonsense as though, like as though the fucking World War II didn't happen. You know what I mean? Are you a fucking idiot? Are you stupid? Wow, I can't believe the USSR engaged in a non-aggression pact, and just like the West did, okay? I wonder, certainly nothing happened after that, right? Certainly nothing happened after that, and the USSR aligned with the Nazis and started, and they were a part of it. They were a part of the fucking They were a part of the axis of evil. Also, why are people still doubling down on this? Everyone involved in bringing that old guy to Parliament apologized already almost immediately after it happened. His dead discourse in Canada. Because I think there is a more important revisionism. There's a secondary reason for why people are still arguing this point. Just like the reason why this guy is fucking hitting this take. Poland took a piece of Czechoslovakia in the Munich Agreement with the Nazis, so maybe people should stop bringing up Molotov-Ribbentrop. It's just... like, Molotov-Ribbentrop is such an idiotic fucking take because the more famous thing that happened after that is what is important, okay? Just like the West also engaged in appeasement, like, nobody's going to fucking sit here and be like, remember when Americans, like, I don't know, remember when Americans also did that? And that's it. Like, nothing else happened. Like, what are we talking about? Everybody knows what happened. Watch Band of Brothers, okay? They were fucking pummeling Nazi skulls, okay? They were doing incredible things out there. Our boys were out there fucking, paratrooping, dropping into France, liberating goddamn European countries left and right. You understand me? God, it was so good. Fuck. I feel so passionate in my fucking heart every time. God, a Band of Brothers. What a show. What a fucking show. Huh. Anyway, it gives me such a patriotic boner. Anyway. Why did Stalin immediately start manufacturing weapons after the Molotov Pact? He was quite literally buying time for the inevitable war. What a fucking joke of an argument. I don't even care about that. You don't even need to make that. Okay? You don't even need to talk about every single Western country that made a pact before the USSR did with Nazi Germany, all this shit. None of it matters. You want to know why? Because the simplest explanation is always the best one, which is that the USSR fought the fucking Nazis and won. That's it. You know what I mean? That's it. There's nothing else that you need to bring up other than, you know, what our boys did, okay? What our boys did on the Western Front, okay? And what their boys did on the East. And together they were able to fucking rid the world of the Nazi scourge. Do you understand me? God damn, dude. Oh, I feel fucking passionate when I see. Brings a tear to my goddamn eyes, dude. They fucking took it down. They took that fucking gross empire down, just like you can take the top of the hour ad break down with a $5 a month subscription. That's right. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break scourge. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. I wonder how many people Band of Brothers recruited for the U.S. Army. I literally would have joined. I'm telling you right now, if I was my age right now, because Band of Brothers came out 36 hours before 9/11, if I watched Band of Brothers, I'd be like, I'm enlisting. Where? I need to become a soldier. I will believe anything you tell me. It is the best. It is the most like effective. The propaganda worked on you. First of all, they didn't even do this in anticipation of 9/11. They shot it a year before 9/11 happened. Okay? It was just incredible because it is the only propaganda element of like Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan and all matter of different World War II movies is that it completely changed the attitude globally and allowed there to be so much anti-USSR, anti-Soviet sentiment in the immediate aftermath of World War II. The most deliberate aspect of World War II movies. Oh, by the way, here's the 3-minute ad break now. The most deliberate aspect of World War II movies is that it personally changed and rewrote history for so many people that everyone thought, oh, it's just Americans. Like simply Americans defeated the Nazis and maybe a little bit of help from like the English, right? and that the USSR is just completely sidelined. And the 20 fucking million dead is just simply not even considered. There's hella propaganda in Band of Brothers, dude. It's a great miniseries, but come on. I mean, the major propaganda, in my opinion, is the very little mention of Russians so far. And I'm like 9 episodes deep. And they don't even bring up, fucking bring up like a singular aspect of the USSR in that. There is zero mention of the USSR, like they weren't even there. We're going to get back to the revisionist article right now in a second, but there is, first you convince people the USSR was an equivalent evil to the Nazis, then you can convince them that it was the greater evil, then that the Nazis were a necessary evil, then finally that the Nazis were good. Everyone who falls into this pipeline works to pull others to the level they're on, while themselves being pulled along to the next by the more advanced fascists. This is by design. And I do think that that is what we are engaging in right now. This is why the never forget narrative is so fucking important. Okay? Like, there is a reason for why we must not forget the Holocaust so that we don't repeat those same mistakes, right? Even though one might say that there are active apartheid states currently engaging in the act of genocide, like in Israel, right? Or there might be, not full ethnic cleansing, but some level of ethnic cleansing and slavery occurring in the United States of America still, and many other places around the world. The idea that this is like, the double genocide theory, I think was originally very insidious, very cynical, oftentimes fascist-backed propaganda that has now become the norm, like actively. And this also plays along with it. Secretary Anthony Blinken, 82 years ago, the Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews at Babin Yar. Soviets buried this history, which today Putin's government manipulates to provide cover for Russia's abuses in Ukraine. The U.S. is committed to justice for Holocaust survivors and accountability for atrocities, which is, again, insane. Soviet prisoners of war were among the people who were massacred at Babin Yar. Just like another aspect of anti-Soviet revisionism that is ahistorical and literally Holocaust denial almost, or not almost, Holocaust denial, Holocaust revisionism, is the forgotten side, is the completely forgotten side of like the communist, the internal struggle in Germany, okay, leading up to the Nazi party seizing power and what they did. Like the first people that were in concentration camps were literally communists, okay? People forget that. Or rather, they never learned that. 82 years ago, Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews at Babin Yar. They're rewriting history and they're going to get away with it. No matter how much we can call them out, the propaganda machine will keep churning until a critical mass of Americans believe this nonsense. I don't even know what to say anymore. I love how they use progressive language to defend slavery. What is this? Hassan with the standard tanky racism where you treat East Asians like some magical race of superhumans who aren't doing the exact same imperialism we do in the West. He just wants the U.S. with a communist flag on it. What? I don't understand this. Like, does this person think it's like chill? Like we should go, like it's racist to say that there is a like any kind of liberation that could exist in an Asian country? Like, what the fuck? The USSR lost more than 8 million soldiers in World War II. Acting like they were the main factor that destroyed Nazi Germany is absurd. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've covered the change in public opinion in France, specifically about who shouldered the greatest burden in World War II that led to the liberation of Europe. And, in the immediate aftermath, it was 57% USSR. In 1994, it was 25% USSR, 49% America. What happened between 1945 and 1994? The Cold War and a shit ton of, one, anti-Soviet propaganda, counter-revolutionary propaganda, but also what happened was the cultural imperialism of Hollywood that completely rewrote history. So that is the insidious part of that kind of coverage. Which is why I think, like, for example, Call of Duty, like the original Call of Duty 1, was so sick because, like, it straight up showed you I mean, there was obviously like a lot of the Russians will shoot you in the fucking head if you escape or whatever, because there were like a lot of brutal conditions in the USSR as far as like fighting against Nazi. But like the first COD single player campaign absolutely did an incredible fucking job of just straight up showing that the USSR forces were liberators, right? They did a fantastic fucking job. It was like one of the few pieces of like American made art that heavily featured that heavily fucking featured the Russian side. Yeah, World at War. This part is, yeah. Chop his ass up, dude. Oh! Oh my God, it's so sick.
You can make it, my friend. You always survive. The honor should be yours.
Do it, Reznov! Do it, Tovarich!
As long as you live, the heart of this army can never develop.
Things will change, my friend. As heroes, we will return to Russia's embrace.
So fuck, I got chills, dude. Holy shit, I got goosebumps. So good. So beautiful. This is COD 5, my dude. I know there was a lot of good fucking Call of Duty portrayals, like before they went full-blown nutty mode with American imperialism being like, Russians are the ones who are doing American. What if Russia was doing American war crimes that America never had to address ever? Like the highway of death. Oh, Jesus. Anyway. Wasn't that Battlefield? No, this was in the one of the last Call of Duties. So, yeah, this kind of historical revisionism is occurring, and it's insidious, it's nefarious, it's really fucked up, and it's very odd. But, yeah, history is complicated because fighting against the USSR at the time didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Wrong. Just someone who had an excruciating choice over which of these two terror regimes to exist. There's nothing funnier than being a Ukrainian who sided with the Nazis when the Nazis openly said you were a dog and were killing your neighbors, and then they enlisted you to kill your neighbors, okay? And I don't mean just like Polish people, okay? But your Jewish neighbors, for example. So there is no two sides to that fucking coin. As a matter of fact, it's the one aspect of history that is obviously so close to our contemporary history and our understanding of society that, like, there are still veterans, you know what I mean? Including the fucking Nazi that was, got a standing ovation in Canada. Why are Jewish and Holocaust remembrance groups letting stuff like this slip into the mainstream media now? Fuck no, they're not. They 100% are fucking attacking these people. Are you kidding me? No, they're not. This is one aspect that, like, they absolutely are they 100% universally get mad over, which is understandable. The fucking idea, when you have, what is the number of Ukrainians that fought in the Red Army? I mean, I think it's like, millions of people. The idea that, like, you will disrespect their sacrifice like this by propping up a fucking dude who literally decided to voluntarily join a group of people that were slaughtering his brethren, okay, his countrymen, and also literally jailed his fucking leaders. They didn't even give a shit. The Banderites targeted Ukrainians who openly opposed the fascist platform too, and they were jailed too. That's the other part. Like, they considered you to be a dog, and you fucking volunteered with the people who thought you were a dog. You were worthless. They jailed your fucking leaders. The biggest L of all time, thinking like, oh, these guys are totally going to give us liberation. According to research during 1943 to 1945, about 4.5 million Ukrainians became Red Army soldiers. After June 1944, 33% of the Soviet Red Army consisted of Ukrainians. The losses of Ukrainian people during World War II account for 19 to 35% of total USSR losses. Unimaginable amounts of sacrifice. Millions of Ukrainians served in the Red Army, with thousands of generals and officers being Ukrainian. About 100,000 served as fascist collaborators, and this is who the West remembers exactly. It's harder to find if we're looking at it objectively from just a mathematical conundrum, it is quite literally harder to find fascist collaborators than those who served under the Red Army, okay? And yet, the West still seems to take on that mountainous burden, that unimaginable task, and they still end up somehow finding the fucking Nazis to prop up. That is crazy to me. The USSR had a horrible track record against ethnic minorities. I do not get how you people can justify your commie boners. Fuck Nazis, of course, but goddamn. I don't know who you are talking to. Okay? I do not know who the fuck you're talking to, because we are specifically, you're shadowboxing with a made-up person. Okay? I think that is one of the major issues with the USSR, specifically as it pertains to something that you shouldn't ever do again. It is such an odd thing to come in here and then turn around and bring this up. Like, it's like when dude, you know what this is like? This is like when I talk about how fucking hoorah I am, thinking about American liberators, right? I'm like, hell yeah, brother. They fucking went in. Our boys went in there and they fucking busted Nazi skulls. And you're like, well, what about the invasion of Iraq? It's like, dog, that's not what I'm talking about. Okay? I'm not talking about that at all. You know what my opinion is on that shit. So why don't you ever come in here and when I fucking go hoorah about killing Nazis on the American side, nobody ever turns around and goes, well, actually, Hassan, what about Vietnam? It's like, what are you, fucking stupid? That's not, am I talking about Vietnam? No, shut the fuck up. I'm talking about World War II. Suck my cock, okay? It's so fucking stupid, and it's so transparently propaganda that is nefarious, okay? That is precisely the reason why it only goes in one direction. Whenever you bring up USSR's victories in World War II, they go, the USSR was fucking, they were so bad. What the fuck are we talking about? Like, blah, blah, blah. But they never fucking talk about Americans when I'm talking about American victories in World War II. You want to know why? Because they're one-sided. That's why. They do not give a shit about the USSR or America's victories in World War II. They just give a shit about being anti-USSR. So odd. The history is complicated. It's not. However, the idea of foreign volunteers and conscripts were being allocated to the Waffen-SS rather than the Wehrmacht on administrative rather than ideological grounds is a hard sell for audiences to believe the SS's primary task was genocide. Whoa. This guy isn't just doing propaganda for this one specific Ukrainian. He's doing propaganda for the entire SS, which is pretty fire. That's sick. So the SS's primary task wasn't genocide, according to this guy. And simple narratives like everybody in the SS was guilty of war crimes are more pervasive because they're much simpler to grasp. That's awesome. That Politico wrote an article in Politico EU where this possibly is illegal, for the record. Okay? That like we moved on from the clean Wehrmacht theory to the clean SS theory. Okay? It's not just that like, oh, the Wehrmacht, like, well, those guys, they were just following orders and they should not have actually, been put to the task. This motherfucker said, actually, the SS was good as well. Some people. Canada's enemies have thus latched on to the simple narratives alongside concerned citizens in Canada itself, with the misstep over Hunka being used by Russia and its backers. Like, The misstep over Hunka being used by Russia and his fucking backers, brother, he's a Nazi. And the Canadian Parliament propped him up. Like, your worldview has to be so distorted. It's so funny. Yeah, we are now at a point where it's just like straight up. I'm so horny to be anti-USSR, anti-socialist, anti-communist that I'm actually handing it to the fucking Nazis moment. I had a history professor who's focused on the Holocaust who told us to never forget amidst the Nazi soldiers were generals and thousands of apathetic German citizens, business owners, and community leaders who watched the Holocaust happen, which is just as evil as doing the fighting on the front lines. Yeah. Apparently, there's a good chance that the guy you playing Call of Duty World of War could have been a Turkic Muslim because the division he's a part of is a real division founded by Muslim Soviets in the 1920s. According to Russia's ambassador in Canada, Hunka's unit committed multiple war crimes, according to him, including mass murder against the Russian people. Ethnic Russians is a proven fact. But whenever a Russian official calls something a proven fact, it should set off alarms. Oh my God, he's literally just doing propaganda for the Waffen SS Galicia division, which was heavily this kind of stuff. You're at this point, you're literally just doing straight up Holocaust denial. Okay? This article is doing Holocaust denial. Okay? Repeated exhaustive investigations, including by not only the Nuremberg trials, but also the British, Canadian, and even Soviet authorities, led to the conclusion that no war crimes or atrocities had been committed by this particular unit. That's false. No, that is literally false. What the fuck? That's not... They at least killed 100 Jews, if I'm not mistaken. I remember seeing that in Ukraine. Anti-partisan actions with Kampfgruppe Beiersdorf. 100 Jews, and then and a fuck ton of Polish people. The judgment in Nuremberg against major war criminals found that all persons who had been officially accepted as members of the SS after 1st September 1939 were declared criminal according to Article 6 of the Charter, with the exception of those who were drafted into membership by the state and did not commit crimes. Members of the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS were volunteers and members of the SS. They were also found guilty of the war crimes by the head of the Commission for Prosecution of Crimes Against the Polish Nation and the Institute of History at the Ukrainian Academy of Scientists. No individual among the enlisted men of the 14th have yet been prosecuted or individually for any war crimes. By the end of the war, most of the officers of the 14th were either killed or missing. That's it. So, anti-partisan actions equals war crimes. By the way, they would massacre entire villages under the guise of anti-partisan activity. So Hunka could still be processed? Yes. Poland, as a matter of fact, has asked to extradite Hunka to Poland to be tried for his Nazi war crimes, which would be fucking fire. They should do that. If Canada wants to, to make right for their obvious wrongs in this regard, they should start extraditing all of the Ukrainian Nazis to Poland and have them be tried, because that is what is just. But this is just the latest twist in a long time running campaign. Yeah, this is actually Russian propaganda. Like, brother, you're doing Nazi Germany propaganda while talking about Russian propaganda. Did the Russian government immediately take advantage of this? Yes, they did. Why do you hand a dub to the Russians in this regard? And why, instead of re-examining how horny you were to be so anti-Russian that you're doing Nazi propaganda, that you're still running along with a narrative that further solidifies your perspective as like someone who's a Nazi defender and a Holocaust revisionist, instead of just going, yeah, we fucked up, we should extradite this guy. Yes, it's not just enemies of democracy that are subscribing to the seductively simple. Jewish advocacy groups in Canada have been understandably loud in their condemnation. But here, too, accusations risk being influenced by misconception. Bro, I'm sorry. This is literally the same fucking energy as Ben Shapiro defending Ann Coulter for anti-Semitism because she defends Israel, right? She's an ally to Israel, so it's fine if she's anti-Semitic. I don't care. That's what Ben Shapiro has said in the past, right? But in this circumstance, it's even worse, because you're literally defending a Nazi, like an actual fucking Nazi, and whitewashing his participation in war crimes, okay? You're whitewashing his participation in war crimes because he's anti-USSR. Like, you're so horny against a non-existing state, right? And you're so angry about like communism and socialism in general that you are quite literally defending Nazis one step further than like Benjamin defending and Coulter saying anti-Semitic shit. It is really fucking insane that we live now in a time and place where people not on Stormfront, not on 4chan, but instead straight up on fucking Politico are whitewashing, not even doing the clean Vermont theory, but whitewashing SS war criminals. Like, this guy's basically saying, oh, these Jews are duped into getting angry about a fucking Nazi SS war criminal. Okay? Just suck it the fuck up, you know what I mean? The Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center registered as outrage, noting that Junker's unit's crimes against humanity during the Holocaust are well documented. A statement that doesn't seem to have any more substance than the accusation by Russia. The result of all of this is that otherwise intelligent people are now trying to outdo each other in the course of evidence-free condemnation. Yeah, this guy's doing like the Russell Brand defender style defense, but for a Nazi. Just he's like, oh man, there's no evidence here. Oh, this is cancel culture. I can't believe they're doing cancel culture. There's no evidence that this fucking Nazi who volunteered, this fucking Nazi who volunteered for the Waffen-SS actually did any Waffen-SS type Nazi crimes, even though technically he is, a Nazi. Wow. Pretty sure this article is illegal in Germany and Austria. Yeah, 100%. Hunke is now so old that he thought it was a good idea not to hide in Canada, but to receive a standing ovation on a national stage. No, my friend, it's not that he was old. It's that is the level of comfort that people who aligned with the Nazis have in a place like Canada, in the Western world in general. But specifically, the Ukrainian Canadian diaspora and the anti-USSR Nazis that exist in it have always been very horny to just like whitewash their atrocities. That's why we covered the actual fucking that's why we covered the ridiculous the ridiculous hate crimes where a Nazi statue was defaced in Canada and the police opened a fucking hate crime investigation to the guys who defaced it. It is not whitewashing of the SS is legal in Germany. Wait, what? To achieve these aims, the organization used contracts with political parties. In the years following World War II, the Allied occupational authorities in Germany implemented policies which included demilitarization, denazification, democratization, and decentralization. The Allies' attempts were often perceived by the occupied population as victors' justice and met with limited success. Is this the Daughters of the Confederacy, but for the Waffen-SS? Is that what's going on? The Mutual Aid Association of former Waffen-SS members was a lobby group and a denialist veterans organization founded by former high-ranking Waffen-SS personnel in West Germany in 1951. Its main objective was to achieve legal, economic, and historical rehabilitation of the Waffen-SS. Oh my God, dude. God, I fucking hate reactionary pieces of shit so goddamn much. Liberals get up and say, are there civil liberties for the fascists? Are they going to have newspapers and radio? The passion and concern they feel for the fascists who were destroying and murdering people the day before. Liberals will get up and say, are there civil liberties for the fascists? Michael Parenti. The Ukrainian Canadian diaspora was very left-wing until these Nazi fucks got imported in. They turned what used to be a burgeoning and active trade unionist and socialist community into little Hitlerites too. Yeah. Are we still on the Twitter drama? Bro, I'm sorry, but like a major publication writing a fucking opinion piece defending an actual Waffen-SS Nazi is a little bit beyond, Twitter drama, I would say, especially when it perfectly aligns with like Secretary of State Anthony Blinken also doing Holocaust revisionism in an effort to like fuck over the USSR, right? Like, this is an active and deliberate attempt to whitewash historical wrongs with the express purpose of trying to cut propaganda against the Soviets or whatever, a country that doesn't even fucking exist. God damn it. Ukrainian Canadian political science professor Ivan Kachanovsky stated that the supporters of the SS Galicia Division in Canada, where many of the members immigrated after the Second World War, attempted to portray it as a patriotic military formation, despite its collaboration with the Third Reich and its responsibility in the mass killing of Jews, Ukrainians, and Poles. This is the natural extension of the the USSR committed atrocities to defense. The right-wingers always dredge up to defend Nazis. One bad thing doesn't make something else not bad. Great video on how Western Germany preserved fascism in Germany post-World War II. So, Bestie Marks is incredible, and I've told him that I want to watch his videos on the show. The problem is that there's a lot of TOS in it. I don't know if this has TOS in it. We've had conversations about like some of the violent imagery that Bestie Marks happens to show. I don't know if this one has it or not. But we can go through this a little bit. Yeah, how Nazism survived in Germany.
Auschwitz wurde niemand umgebracht. Und ich sage es klipp und klar, leider wurde niemand umgebracht.
Classic. He said nobody was killed in Auschwitz. Let me say this clearly. Unfortunately, no one was killed, which is the typical neo-Nazi take. Okay? Does this guy write for Politico? Who knows? Now, of course, the Politico writer is simply a collaborator. Maybe aligns with the ideologies of the Nazis. Maybe doesn't care. But this guy is out and about. It's a little different. The destruction of Nazism with its roots is our slogan. The building of a new world of peace and freedom is our goal. Oath of Buchenwald, which survivors of the concentration camp took after liberation on April 11th, 1945.
In the slipstream of the capitalist crisis, and with the support of crucial parts of the state itself, Nazism has been growing stronger in the Federal Republic of Germany almost unhindered for several years.
Hang the Nobel Prize around Adolf Hitler's head? What?
Far-right AfD party with openly fascist elements is growing quickly and establishing itself as a dominant player nationwide. Parts of the right are talking more frequently about fascist coups or the Rassenkrieg, the race war, and their entanglements deep into the state apparatus are becoming public again and again. The increasing right-wing terror against migrants and other minorities creates a climate of fear and insecurity. Meanwhile, the state is ramping up its repression against those fighting against Nazism to suffocate rising awareness and resistance in its infancy. Some weeks...
Yeah, the music is a little loud. The audio mixing, unfortunately, goes a little heavy. But it's a great video. Bessie Marks does a lot of good videos.
Ago, anti-fascist Lina E. received over 5 years for alleged attacks against neo-Nazis. And this, after a series of revelations showing the complicity of the state in the creation of a secret far-right network. In order to understand the developments in Germany, it is crucial to know about how and why Nazism managed to stay alive, and therefore to learn about the so-called period of denazification after World War II, where, far from eliminating Nazi influence, Nazism was deliberately spared and reintegrated into the new West German power structure. Where
yeah, if only there was like a Western force that, that basically took over Western Germany and reinstituted. Pin post to follow original creator. Have we not? We usually do pin a post, but yes, this is Bestie Marks, who's great. If only there was like a Western force that came over and was like, "Hey, we should put Nazis back in power because they're really fucking sick at hating commies as much as we do."
Where it managed to survive.
We made the simple mistake. We made the same mistake with the Confederacy. That was not a mistake. Neither of those cases were a mistake, and it especially was not a mistake in the aftermath of World War II. It was not a mistake at all. It was by design. It was intentional. It was certainly not a mistake in the Civil War either, in Reconstruction, where it was white supremacy. White supremacy is not a mistake. It is a way of existence. If you have white supremacist attitudes, if you are growing up in a white supremacist nation, okay, and you have these values in your core, you are absolutely going to be infinitely more fearful of black people seeking out revenge, right, during the Reconstruction era than the fragile white people who were actually showing violent retribution and an unwillingness to cooperate, even after they got their shit pushed in. And capitulating to those white slave owners was deliberate. Even if you did not fully agree with them ideologically on the necessity of chattel slavery, you still had similar values, so much so that you did not consider it to be genuinely a problem to reinstitute the same racial hierarchy with maybe a little bit more legal hurdles slapped on top of it. Because that is precisely what happened.
To this day. Before I start, I just want to quickly say a huge thank you to all those who support the channel on Patreon, which I set up after my last video on Turkish fascism. Doing all the research and editing takes up a huge amount of time, and your contributions really make a difference.
I want to watch his video on NATO and Turkish ultranationalist fascism and how America played a formative and significant role. It's basically a carbon copy of this, I suspect. I haven't watched this video yet, but I assume it's the same like NATO-backed elements that America put in positions of power and offered support to, because that's what happened in Turkey. The ultranationalists rose up and got funding and training and help from under NATO, of course, got funding and help and training from America.
Most people have heard about the top Nazi leaders such as Hermann Göring and Rudolf Hess being prosecuted after the defeat of Nazi Germany in the famous Nuremberg trials. What is less well known is that West German denazification was an utter failure when it comes to thoroughly punishing Nazis in the several trials that were conducted at the time. From 1946 until 2005, after absorbing the GDR, the Federal Republic of Germany convicted 6,656 people of Nazi crimes, and the vast majority of sentences, just under 5,000, were relatively mild, involving imprisonment of up to 2 years. Note that this is a teeny-tiny fraction of the over 200,000 perpetrators of Nazi crimes. Picture this. The number of individuals convicted for Nazi crimes under the Federal Republic was lower than the total number of Nazis who had worked at Auschwitz alone. Up until the end of the 20th century, only 164 Nazis were eventually sentenced for murder, compared to the hundreds of thousands of individuals complicit in the massacre of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. And I want you to keep in mind that anti-fascist Lina A. got over 5 years in prison for allegedly beating up Nazis, while the vast majority of those convicted, literal participants in the Nazi killing machine, didn't even receive 2 years. The half-assed denazification efforts didn't cause outrage among all people in Germany. If anything, a considerable amount of the population who remained in denial about the Nazi crimes opposed these efforts, dismissing the Nuremberg trials conducted by foreign powers as victors' justice. Germany was once again portrayed as the victim. This is no surprise, since a large section of the German population had been supporters of Hitler. 43.9% had voted for the Nazi Party in 1933, with some estimating an even higher percentage of support in the 40s, and they did not turn anti-fascist all of a sudden after the war. Before the state pushed for amnesty a few years later, It was a large section of civil society that helped the Nazis with legal assistance or with smuggling them out of the country. It was the Catholic and the Protestant churches that represented one of the few structural constants immediately after the war ended. The International Red Cross provided the fleeing Nazis with passports. Among those who left illegally were Adolf Eichmann, one of the main
the answer to the question, why are there so many German last names in Argentina? And why does great granddad claim that he came before World War II, but it doesn't seem like he came before World War II?
Architects of the Holocaust. Auschwitz doctor and angel of death, Josef Mengele. The former head of the Lyon Gestapo, Klaus Barbie, otherwise known as the Butcher of Lyon. Or Ante Pavelic, Croatian founder of the Nazi collaborating Ustaše. The US Counterintelligence Corps, which was informed about the identity of the perpetrators, helped with the escape. In Barbie, they had found one of their top assets in the hunt for communists. With the help of the Americans, Barbie managed to escape to Bolivia, where he would play a key role in hunting down Che Guevara. 4 years earlier...
Dude, for the record, once again, NATO in its inception, he's describing anti-communist sentiment that Americans and the American State Department is looking for in the immediate aftermath of World War II. Understand that this is specifically Americans working to find the best commie hunters, okay? Immediately after World War II, it was like, all right, it's time to actually get our shit in gear and go after the real prize here. Klaus Barbie should have been up in the gallows, for fuck's sake. The guy's appalling even for a fucking Nazi. Yes.
CIC man Vincent Lavista had described the Vatican as the, quote, largest single organization involved in the illegal movement of immigrants. Through so-called rat lines, Nazis would be smuggled out of Germany through Switzerland to South America, for instance. All with the knowledge of the Church, the Swiss government, and President of Argentina, Juan Perón, with companies such as the predecessor of the Swiss corporation Emschemi actively collaborating in this endeavor. But things didn't stop there. Describing denazification simply as a series of government mistakes or slackness misses the point. In order to fight the danger of communism from without and within Germany, among other things, the West German government saw great benefits in not only sparing the Nazis, but in reintegrating them in the state apparatus. Accordingly, the Nazi ideology continued to have significant influence in the power structure. Anti-communism, which was strongly intertwined with anti-Semitism, served the needs of the new regime. In particular, it was the phantom of the Red Orchestra, which influential Nazis took over from the Gestapo. Communist resistance to Hitler was unquestionably labeled as treason, and it was successfully insinuated that it was now having a stronger effect in the Federal Republic of Germany. It's important to remember that many representatives of the ruling classes in other countries didn't have a problem with fascism in general, but only where fascism endangered their own sphere of influence. Communism was the main danger to capitalism, and fascism was correctly regarded as an effective tool against communist influence. Quote, fascism has rendered a service to the whole world. Hereafter, no great nation will be unprovided with an ultimate means of protection against the cancerous growth of Bolshevism.
I bet this guy has no idea about Molotov-Ribbentrop, though, you know? Just saying. See, here's the thing, okay? Churchill, not a great guy, okay? But I'm not going to sit here and be like, he didn't do some great things against the Nazis, okay? That's it. That's the point. When you're talking specifically about what people did in World War II, okay? It's an entirely different point.
With an ultimate means of protection against the cancerous growth of Bolshevism, said Winston Churchill in a speech he gave in Rome in 1927. So instead of describing denazification as a failure,
he's actually, I think, am I wrong? I think this is Madison Square Garden. That is a Jewish man in New York. This is from Madison Square Garden in the United States of America, which is ironic because he's talking about Nazis in Germany. But this is the famous what is it called? The American German Bund movement rally that happened. Night at Madison Square Garden is the Night of the Garden is the actual name of the documentary, where this is a Jewish protester that protests against the Nazis, and the police actually arrested him, by the way.
We have to see the adoption of fascism as a logical consequence of class society, whether it's fascism in the form of an actual government system or the use of the fascist movement in the service of capital, e.g., either actively collaborate.
Oh, yes, that's such a good take that I forgot to mention. Of course, the American German Bund movement had to Americanize and like somewhat anglicize their narrative because they wanted to support Nazi Germany, right? So they, and this might come as a surprise to you, maybe you weren't aware of this, like you weren't following during the early stages of the Trump era where I was covering this exact thing, but they tailored their messaging around like, you know, George Washington and understandable white supremacist elements within American formation. And they literally were the first to say America first. Like they popularized the America first narrative where they were like, no, like America first, like we love America. That's why you need to sign. That's why you need to go to war alongside Nazi Germany, not against Nazi Germany. Yeah.
With the Freikorps or the Fasci to crush communists, or just integrating fascist elements in the state apparatus, such as the police, whether consciously or unconsciously, to secure a counter-revolutionary basis for the worst case. In other words, you cannot denazify class society. But this deeper causation and involvement of much wider forces in society was left aside, of course, in the World War II aftermath. Fritz Bauer, the Attorney General who set the Auschwitz trial in motion, spoke of the atomization and parceling of the collective event, which had thus been diffused and privatized. This is reflected in the punishing of a relatively minuscule selective set of people, the tip of the iceberg. Take all the companies and their bosses who had financed Hitler's rise to power, who collaborated with the Nazi regime and profited from forced labor and mass murder in the concentration camps. The Thyssens, the Flicks, the Quants, the Porsche Piechs, the Oetkers, most of them faced little to zero consequences. Industrialist Günther Quandt, whose ex-wife was married to Joseph Goebbels, expanded the family wealth at the expense of concentration camp prisoners or through expropriating competitors.
My family's in the German military-industrial complex during the entire period. There were no penalties. The companies produced screws and nails from 1945 to 1955. And today they are producing tanks again. Exactly. That is the second. This video is great. But there's also a really insidious second thing that is happening right now in Germany specifically, which he started off talking about with the AfD revitalizing that fascist sentiment, right? In a country that has a not-so-distant history with literally this exact same thing. The German military-industrial complex is currently growing once again. And once you have a robust military-industrial complex, that necessitates more imperialism, more bloodshed, more war. And that is fucking terrifying.
Mostly Jewish. And became a major producer of armaments and industrial goods, boosting the war machine of the Third Reich. However, no charges were brought against him at the Nuremberg trials, despite initial investigations. The Quants are the wealthiest family in Germany today. Among the roughly 100 most powerful businessmen who virtually ruled over West German capitalism in the 60s, a majority were the same people as before 1945, people who should have been punished for war crimes. I will dive deeper into the collaboration between capitalists and Hitler in a future video. Nazism this, Nazism that, Nazis, Nazis, Nazis. The West German ruling class got sick of hearing about denazification over and over. They've had enough of it. Schluss mit Entnazifizierung, End Denazification, was a campaign slogan of the FDP, which is part of the so-called center-left government coalition in Germany today.
Yeah, I mean, listen, social fascism, baby. It's interesting that you know, that same coalition also existed in the lead up as well. FDP are neoliberals, not center left. I mean, please, Germany's only growing their military again because of our policy. They actively resisted for a long time. I mean, after a certain point, you have to remember, it's not even necessarily like America giving the go-ahead or America influencing. It's capital owners that want to make money. This is an opportunity to generate revenue. Okay?
But the big winner of the 1949 election was
FDP was never left. They are neoliberal with a marginal social liberal wing. Yeah, they're the gay conservatives. I don't know. I don't know enough about the FDP.
another party, Konrad Adenauer, from the conservative Christian.
He meant center left with Greens and SPD are as so-called left, and FDP as center, but it's all liberal labeled. All three of them are right wing.
Democratic Union, short CDU, was elected as the first chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany. The CDU is the largest conservative party in Germany. President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen is a member. A year later in 1950, Adenauer and former officers met in Himmerod Abbey to lay out the conditions for the rearmament of Western Germany, releasing war criminals, putting an end to the defamation of the former soldiers, and the need to change public opinion regarding the Wehrmacht. US President Eisenhower, who had previously called the Wehrmacht soldiers Nazis, would suddenly change his opinion, perpetuating the clean Wehrmacht myth and supporting the rearmament efforts, not least because the Yankees needed strong partners in the Korean War and in the fight against communism more broadly. The US soon deemed denazification as counterproductive and agreed with Adenauer in ending denazification efforts. The chancellor said that
in my opinion, doing this, liberals who fucking oftentimes talk about appeasement from the USSR without mentioning appeasement from the West to Nazi Germany, always suspiciously never mention obviously what happened during World War II, but then also what happened after World War II, which is when this becomes infinitely less acceptable. You took all of the fucking genocidal freaks and war criminals and you put them in positions of power because they were rabidly anti-Soviet, anti-socialist, anti-trade unionist sickos. Okay? You did that knowing full well what they had done. You did that specifically because you wanted them to do that again if the scary communist boogeyman ever returned. If the specter kept haunting Europe, okay? The specter of communism.
Main culprits had already been prosecuted. After all, there were much bigger problems than Nazis in Germany in the eyes of the new German government. Stoking the fear of the Red Menace, Adenauer would say, quote, "In a moment you will hear a cabinet resolution that we passed this morning, the aim of which is to ruthlessly remove all supporters of communism from positions in the Federal Republic, whether they are workers, employees, or civil servants." The context was a resolution.
Yeah, sure, Hassan, that's the reason. I remember why shush, Hassan, you're not German. I remember why I find these streams so exhausting. Yeah, sure, Hassan, that's the reason. What was the reason for why America actually put Nazis in positions of power in Western Germany? Can you give me the brilliant five-head take that you have for it? Hassan, you must understand, you must be German to understand the intricacies of allowing Nazis into positions of power in your government is a fucking sick question. Sick take, unless you're because they had military experience. What was the military experience that they had? Who was it against? Military experience fighting who? This is yet another incredible moment where you just repeated exactly what I said in a sarcastic way, in this super asinine, cynical way where you're like, no shit, the Americans, The Americans, I think there was military experience against another group of individuals as well that the Americans actually cared more about. Think about it. Considering that the Americans were the ones who were putting them back in power. Think about it. Yeah, I mean, this is like declassified shit. Nazis and Axis collaborators, this is from CIA.gov. Nazis and Axis collaborators were used to further U.S. anti-communist objectives in Europe. Some immigrated to the United States. Leftist conspiracy equals declassified CIA take? Always. But this kind of stuff is like really, this kind of stuff is really shitty because like, this is more so like deliberate omission from most normal, like most of the areas where you could get your education from. And that's where the problem lies. Like, this is the same energy as like not knowing MLK was a socialist, not knowing Einstein was a socialist. It's because it is purposely omitted from the record, despite these people openly stating their political ideologies. And when people don't learn about it, and enough people don't learn about it because they've learned a whitewash perspective and they think they understand it, they think that, you know, the other side is significantly scarier. They make justifications for it. This is where cognitive biases come into play. Like, you have learned a different history. You've learned an incorrect assessment of history, an incorrect retelling of history, and you think that there is no top of the hour ad break. Your bias is kicked in. There is one, okay? And if you want to eviscerate or liberate yourself from the top of the hour ad break, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime, or by getting gifted a sub if you're lucky. Right? Here's a 3-minute ad break now.
That the new government passed in 1950 called the Decree Against Enemies of the Constitution, or the so-called Adenauer Decree. While it's worded neutrally, its thrust was clear. Of the organizations named in it, 11 are communist, but only 2 are right-wing extremists. The decree was the prelude to further legal measures against the left-wing opposition. Adenauer targeted not only the Communist Party of Germany and its sympathizers, but also popular resistance to the remilitarization that he sought. While persecuting communists, Nazis were slowly but surely led back to occupying key positions in the new German state. Not only did denazification stop, but it was deemed as having gone too far. So, one of the first things that the Adenauer administration did was to pass amnesty laws, reducing the sentences of around 800,000 people, or even setting them free, including.
This is why I get frustrated whenever people talk about NATO without like the historical development of NATO, the express purpose as to why NATO was developed, like, and why if you are a leftist, like you claim to be a leftist and yet you are a like rigid NATO defender. Okay? You don't have to be pro-Russia. I am not. Okay? I'm not pro-Vladimir Putin by any means, but the idea that you're like, you claim to be a socialist online and yet you're an ardent supporter of NATO is so insane to me.
Including thousands of SA, SS, and Nazi Party members who had been convicted for assault or murder and for actively taking part in the transportation of victims to concentration camps. Among the many Nazi military leaders who were reintegrated into the West German army was Adolf Heusinger, who had served as an operations chief in the Wehrmacht. He later became the head of the West German military and the chairman of the NATO Military Committee. The chief of staff of the German Chancellery, the quote, left and right hand of Adenauer, Hans Globke, had written the commentary on the Nuremberg race laws, which determined who was a Jew, thus deciding who was persecuted and who was locked up in concentration camps. He now said, quote, the German people knew as little as I did. Then there were those Nazis who were key people in the foundation of international bodies, such as Walter Hallstein, who became one of the founding fathers of the European Union, and Kurt Waldheim, who became Secretary General of the United Nations and President of Austria. And of course there were Nazis in the universities as well. Historian and fierce anti-Semite Werner Conze is among them, but also the rector of the University of Freiburg and one of the most influential German philosophers, Martin Heidegger. Heidegger never apologized for his support of the Nazis. He joined the party in 1933 and remained there until the bitter end. After 1945, there was a massive campaign to salvage Heidegger's reputation, claiming that he had been critical of the Nazis all along, but that he couldn't state it openly. All of that fell apart in 2014.
It's so good. Yeah, dude, I really I promise I was like super critical, dog. Like, I promise.
The latest, when the Black Notebooks were released. And let's not forget the so-called assault gun of democracy, one of the biggest German news magazines, Der Spiegel, co-designed for far too long by old men of the Nazi regime. One of the vice editors-in-chief was a certain Georg Wolf, former SS Hauptsturmführer and SA member. These examples are only a fraction of all the Nazis holding powerful positions in the police, in government and all the ministries, or in the judicial system. And don't get the wrong impression that Nazis only occupied supportive secondary offices. No, they were part of the highest echelons of power. The later Chancellor of Germany, Kurt Georg Kiesinger, had been a Nazi Party member from 1933. Kiesinger would accelerate the reintegration of Nazis and would successfully campaign against the banning of the NPD, a neo-Nazi party that exists to this day. Meanwhile, the Communist Party of Germany was banned.
It's odd that, like, instead of denazifying, they decommunistified further, which was Hitler's intention from the jump. Both cleaning his own party of anyone who had trade unionist or socialist or communist opinions, okay? But then also the rest of the country, as a matter of fact. So it's very cool that time and time again, post-World War II, you see this exact same strategy being applied in the Western world, right? Canada takes in an influx of refugees from different parts of Eastern Europe that aligned with the Nazis with the express purpose of trying to change the diaspora culture to be anti-Soviet, anti-socialist in general. Okay. Same thing happens in Germany. It's very similar to destroying Reconstruction era social harmony, or trying to develop social harmony and reinstituting the same social hierarchy, racial hierarchy that existed. Okay?
And in 1956, the second and last ban in the history of the Federal Republic, followed by over 125,000 prosecutorial investigations and around 10,000 convictions, reaffirming that within a bourgeois democracy, the communist is seen as a far greater danger than the Nazi. I'll talk more about the persecution of communists and the broader left.
Why do you compare Soviets with socialism? Unbelievable bullshit. You're right. You're so right. Yeah, why would I do that? Well, I'm not the one doing that. They were the ones doing that. You understand that, right? In the eyes of a fascist or a capitalist collaborator with fascists who see fascism as a way better mechanism of organizing society, there is no difference between trade unionists, socialists, or if you're in America, I guess Democratic Party members who are liberal, kind of. You know what I mean? So how can you look at like a historical analysis of how Nazism survived in Germany and how all of these Western countries post-World War II considered Soviets, trade unionists, anyone who had like any allegiance towards communism or socialism or the USSR to be in the same in-group? Is this what your perspective is? Trade unions are banned in the USSR. Oh my God, I'm going to die, dude. I'm not talking about the USSR, man. I'm talking about the Western understanding of like any kind of movement towards even building social democratic principles beyond what was allowed by Americans and capitalists and the capital owner class in European countries. You're trying to do like sectarian infighting for like 1958 Germany. I don't know what to do with you, man. I don't know what's going on. How are you this fucking horny?
In Western Germany in the next part. With the exception of Gustav Heinemann, all German presidents from Theodor Heuss to Roman Herzog were contaminated by National Socialism. They had been either members of the Nazi Party or the Wehrmacht, and included a concentration camp.
Like, how do you look at a situation like this and not think, wow, it's pretty fucked up? And your immediate reaction is like, well, the USSR was bad. They didn't let trade unions exist. Like, that's your main point of contention here? Yeah. Unlike in Nazi Germany, they were very fond of trade unionists, you know, specifically. Like, what's the argument? What are we doing? You think these guys fucking did not facilitate in executing them? They did. And they didn't even get fucking punished.
Builder or a profiteer from forced labor in those camps. And it wasn't only guys from the conservative parties. Rabid anti-communist SPD chancellor from
Soviet forklift operators over the ones I've worked with.
1974, Helmut Schmidt, had received 7 Nazi awards for his engagement in Hitler's army, and had also been described by superiors as having a, quote, impeccable National Socialist attitude.
Wait, also, you can have critiques of, like, mismanagement of labor, but, I think the USSR did have trade unions. You know, that's, like, there were other issues, but I don't know. I don't know what your critique is in that situation. In general, in Europe, you keep hearing that everything is immigrants' fault, not enough houses, care getting expensive, but also keep talking about how there aren't enough people to do jobs, and we should get Eastern European immigrant workers. Thanks for educating people about this. People will need it when in 2 to 6 years, the AfD-CDU coalition will take over Germany once again and hate crime all the minorities. AfD-CDU coalition, but AfD specifically, in Germany, the Italian leadership has already fallen to literal fascists, and Marine Le Pen is coming to France as well in the next election cycle. Okay? So that's 3 major power players in Europe. No, I don't care about Orban. Like, whenever people say, like, "Whoa, what about Viktor Orban?" Like, no, nobody gives a shit about fucking Hungary, okay? Like, I'm talking about actual countries that matter in the European Union formation. Like, you know, not countries that have, you know, symbolic opinions and are ashamed of being Turkic in origin because they're Christian, so they're different now, okay? Like, give Hungary back to Turkey. Let's be done with this conversation, okay? Forcible Islamization of Hungary and put it under the Turkish control once again, where it deserves to be, okay? Do I really think Le Pen is going to win? Yes, I do. Dude, there are libs in here that don't understand jokes. No. I mean, all jokes aside, like, Germany, especially Germany, but, like, yes, France, Italy, but especially Germany is really important for the European Union, okay? The German industry refocusing on the military-industrial complex, or building a larger military-industrial complex, is a genuine problem. German sympathies growing, fascist sympathies growing in Germany is a massive problem. Germany is the economic engine that drives the European Union, okay? It's fucking terrifying. Actually terrifying. You are joking, but Orban attends summits of Organization of Turkic States? Yeah, dude, are you kidding me? The white nationalist, fake fucking Putin supporter who relies on EU giving its state money to exist is never going to be like, yeah, let's go and join the Turkic states. Like, he's not, you know. You can already see that, the Cavernical came to my defense here. How is this post left, or How is this post left, or how is he's wrong? Are we going to say that Vietnam invading Cambodia to get rid of Pol Pot was the destruction of Khmer culture or something? It's just super reactionary mindset of, well, if someone says China is better than the alternative, then they must be a tanky simp. I'm not even defending China's actions towards its neighbors overall, but I'm not going to start crying about Tibetan slavery ending. I think it's the problem with people who don't know history, look at it through their at least keep it real propagandized view of the past. It's like the Korean War too. Who is bad and good is based on current politics and not history-based take as well. Are Scandinavian countries also falling to fascism as well? I don't know enough. I know that Sweden has a lot of, that Hitlerite particle. They got that dog in them in certain parts of Swedish politics. But I don't know enough about Finland. I do know a little bit about Finnish history. Okay. I don't know about Norway. I feel like Anders Breivik is a fucking singular psychopath. He did not represent a broader Norwegian movement of like white nationalist, white supremacist psychos.
Damn, this guy's good.